most of you are the most interested in, and that's the question of how do you get a driver's license with a residential address. The other two have been easy. You just factor all the issues with choosing a state, and the one that works out best for you and covers the most, gives you the most advantages in the most areas, you choose. Mail forwarder is also easy. Once you choose a state, you go and you hire a mail forwarder, you give them the money, or if you're lucky, you find family or friends who will then be your mail forwarder for you. That works out. It's easy, it's simple, you pay the money and you're done. Or you get a friend to do it. So, but now we come to the driver's license, and it is not simple at all. Before we go too much further, let's just clarify something. It's possible to have two different kinds of addresses. The first kind of address is a residence address. Most Americans have a residence address. It's the place where they live. They have a bedroom and they sleep in the bedroom and they park their car in the garage or outside on the street. It's the place where they live. That's the way most Americans do it, but you and I as nomads, we don't do it that way. We live on wheels, and wherever we're parked is our residence address. So we're in a very different situation than they are. The second kind of an address is your mailing address. That's the address where your mail goes, and it can be completely different than your residence address. An example is there are towns in this country where there is no mail delivery. Everyone in town has to get a P.O. box or something else to get mail. So they have, all those people, Quartzsite, Arizona is a prime example. There's no mail delivery in Quartzsite. To get mail, everyone gets a P.O. box or a mail forwarder, one or the other. There's just no choice. So for everyone who lives, and there's a number of places, especially in the counties, in rural county areas, there are a fair number of times in this country where the post office won't come to your house and put it in your box. There is no box, there is no post office. If you're getting mail, you're going to drive into town to get a P.O. box or a mail forwarder. So it's really common, not really common, but common enough that you have two addresses. The place where I live and sleep and my car resides, and the place where my mail goes. Two completely different things. Mailing residence. For a very long time, it was easy to get either a residence or a mailing address. We showed you how to get a mailing address. You just hire a forwarder, or you get someone, a friend or family, to handle your mail. But getting a residence address was also very easy. You could use your mail forwarder's address. That used to be really common. Whatever your mail forwarder's address was, you could put down as your residence address and your mailing address both. Or you could use family or friends, or you could just keep using your old address. It was pretty easy. That is no longer true. It has become very difficult now to get a residence address in this country. And the reason is the Real ID Act. The Real ID Act is a federal program. It's a federal law passed in 2005, and it sets a national standard for what each state should gather, what information, what proof each state should gather to give out their driver's license. Who gets a driver's license is based on how much information you get. And it came about because of 9/11, when the planes flew into the Twin Towers. What happened was that there were 19 hijackers involved in the 9/11 tragedy, and between them they had 30 different legal pieces of state ID. And because they had legal ID, they had no problem getting on those airplanes and killing all those people. So by 2005, and there was a great uproar in this country. I don't know if you remember, you may or may not, but there was a great uproar, and we all said we want to be safer. So in 2005, they passed a law that would make us safer, the Real ID Act. What the Real ID Act sets is a national standard for all the states in how they issue driver's licenses. It does not establish a national database. It says right in it, this does not establish a national database. It only sets a standard which the states have to voluntarily conform to. And if they voluntarily conform to them, then they become Real ID compliant. If they don't volunteer, then they're not Real ID compliant. This federal government has no power to dictate to the states what kind of driver's license they issue or what proof they require to issue that driver's license. But what they do have is the power to say who is allowed on a federal installation. And so they have passed laws that if your driver's license is real ID compliant, you can use that driver's license to get onto federal facilities. What kind of federal facilities? Well, the most important one are airports. Airports are managed by the federal government. They're interstate commerce. They fly all over. If a plane crashes on my head that took off, and I'm in Baltimore, and the plane took off in Denver and it crashes on my head, who's responsible for that? Is Denver responsible? Is my state responsible? Well, the federal government is responsible because they manage that part of interstate commerce and air safety for everyone, because it's something that the individual states cannot handle. So they control the airports, they control airlines, and they control who can get on an airplane. And beyond that, they control military installations. You may have a reason you want to go on a military base, and without a real ID compliant driver's license or a passport, that's the key thing too. You can use a passport if you have one. You can't get on a military base or a federal building. There are a lot of reasons why a lot of us need to go into a federal building in our local area. There are federal, who knows, there are all kinds of reasons you might need to go into a federal building. Well, if your ID isn't real ID compliant, your driver's license, you can't get on there. They won't let you in unless you have a passport. So you got to get a passport or a real ID compliant address to get on any of these federal facilities. Also includes nuclear power plants, but probably not many of us go on nuclear power plants. I've never been on one and probably never will be in my whole life, and you won't either. At any rate, so the federal government does control who can get on these facilities, and so they use that as leverage over the states. They said, okay, if you don't gather the data set by this national standard for all the states, then the citizens of your states can't get on an airplane in this country unless they have a passport. They can if they have a passport. And so nearly all of the states are coming around and becoming real ID compliant. Now, what does that mean to be real ID compliant? The big thing is it requires standards of proof. Proof in two areas. The first is of citizenship. You almost always have to bring in now a driver's license and your Social Security card. Or there's other kinds of proof that you can substitute for that, and each state has a list of what they will accept and what they won't. They're all fairly similar. And the other proof is proof that you actually are a resident and live where you say you are. And that is the big thing there, is that you have to bring in proof that you live. Anybody can write down any resident address, 1234 Main Street, but you have to bring in proof, physical proof to them, hand it to them. They have to examine it that says, yeah, this person actually lives at 1234 Main Street. What kind of proof? Well, there's all kinds. There's a list, and I'm going to put up here real shortly a list from the state of Nevada of what they will accept as proof for your residence. And most of the states are pretty similar. There'll be some variations, and we'll talk about that. But most of them are going to be pretty similar. Things like utility bills, whatever this document is, the physical proof you hand them, has to have your name, and it has to have 1234 Main Street, whatever your address is, I don't know what it is, and it has to be within the last either 30 days or 6 months. That does vary, and I'm not exactly sure which it is, to be honest with you. And so if you can't bring this document in and hand it to them, they will not give you a real ID compliant address. If it's compliant, if it's real ID, you've jumped through the hoops, then it will have a gold star at the top. Look at your driver's license. If it has a gold star, sometimes they're a little reddish looking, then you can get on an airplane. Now, I just renewed my driver's license in Nevada, and I did not bring in the proof. And my driver's license says right on it, not good for federal facilities. I can't remember the exact wording. It does not allow me to get on federal facilities. The only way I can get on an airplane, coming up very shortly, is with a passport. This driver's license won't get me on an airplane. It won't allow me to get into an airport, pass through the security. When you go to security, hand them a driver's license, they're going to hand me mine back and say, this doesn't work. Give us a passport. Give us a real driver's license that works, or give us a passport, or you're not coming onto this airport. And that's it. That's all there is to it. And you'll know when you get your driver's license. Let me look. I got my driver's license right here. It says, not for federal official use. This won't get me on an airplane because I didn't bring in the proof. Now they all have basically the same kind of proof. I mentioned a utility bill, but I don't live in a house. I don't pay for utilities. I'm never going to be able to bring in a utility bill. Can I never get a driver's license that will get me on an airplane? Yes, what they will all, I think, allow you to do is bring in a rent receipt. So if you go, and in Nevada it specifically states this, if you go to rent an RV park and you rent for 30 days, you get the rent receipt with your name on it and your spouse, if there's two of you, getting two driver's licenses, both names have to be on the rent receipt. And then that's one of my proofs. I have to have two. Nearly every state requires two. I believe it's the national standard now. But you'll have to look into your state to find out. And so you need another one. And here's what it says right on it. And you're going to see this highlighted. I'm putting up a snip from the state of Nevada, DMV. It lists out their requirements, and you're seeing it on your screen. The other one is voter registration that has that address on it. So I go and I go to the Golden Nugget RV park. I pay for a month's rent. And my address becomes then, and it's on this rent receipt with my name, within the 30 days of, or 6 months, whichever it is. And so I'll take this in, this document, this rent receipt, and it'll say Bob Wells, the date, and 1234 Main Street, Golden Nugget RV Park, space 179. That is it for now on my official address. That's what will be on my driver's license. It's what I'll tell everyone from now on. And so then I take this rent receipt, I go down to the voter registration office and I register to vote. I hand them this rent. I don't think they need to see the rent receipt, they just need that address, 1234 Main Street, space Golden Nugget RV Park, space 179. And then that becomes I get a document from them saying I'm a registered voter at this address. I take those two pieces of paper into the ID, into the Department of Motor Vehicles. I hand it to them and they say, oh, good, Bob, you live here. Congratulations. You qualified for a real ID driver's license, and they will hand me back. They'll send it to me in the mail. You don't get it in the mail. You don't hand it in. Most states don't anymore. And let me tell you one of the reasons why they don't hand them to you anymore. They have a list of I know Nevada does this. I've been told this. I don't know it for a fact. They have a list of all the mail forwarders in their state, and the computers automatically match them. And if you've brought in an address of a mail forwarder, they'll spit it out. If this actually happened to a friend of mine. He went in, he got his driver's license all lined up, he used his mail forwarder's address, he paid him the money and he left, and he got a letter the next week from the DMV and says, this is not a legal address, we need another real address. Bring us another address, and then we'll give you a driver's license, and we will not do it to you before. This is a friend of mine, this is what actually happened. So he got a fake address. He went around, found a friend in town, said, hey, can I use your address? He said, sure, use my address. And he used his friend's address. So now that's the address, and that's now his residence address. That was fine for a non-compliant or a real ID compliant driver's license. I don't know if his says it, but if you went in today to get a driver's license, you'll say just what mine says, not for official federal use. It won't get him on an airplane. So there's an example of how you can get a residence address. Of a friend of mine got a residence address and didn't jump through the hoops because they were still issuing non-compliant driver's licenses. He picked a number out of the air. He drove around, found an address, said, this is now my address. He was saying that he thinks the very best idea, this is what my friend said, I didn't do this. I didn't do anything like this, believe me. He said the best thing is to find a house for sale and pick that address. First, the DMV is never going to go and knock on that door and say, does Bob live here? That's never going to happen. They don't have the manpower to do that. They don't have the money to do anything. They're not going to go send out people knocking on doors and say, does Bob Wells live here? And you can't just look at the titles and say who lives there. I could be renting a room. They have to go and knock on the door and say, does Bob Wells live here? And they're not going to do that. They're never going to do that. They don't have the money. Now, if you got into trouble, that might happen. But you'd have to really draw their attention, and if you don't make stupid videos saying you're breaking the law, it won't happen. And all your mail will go to the mail forwarder. So no one should ever know that you're using a fake ID. It should never happen. Let's say if by accident a piece of mail with your name goes on it there. Well, it's a new owner because they just bought the house. They don't know who used to live there. They don't know who used to rent rooms there. They'll get a piece of ID with my name on it at this address. They say, oh, somebody used to live here. And they'll send it back. They'll just forward it forward through the mail. I'll get it in some way eventually. So that's one way that if you're willing to break the law and lie, you could just go drive around and find a home for sale, and that becomes your address from now on. It will not get you a real ID compliant address. You can't get on an airplane with it, and if they ever do stop issuing non-compliant driver's licenses, which I don't know if they will or not, it'll never work again. We'll have to wait and see on that one. But there's two ways, if you're willing to break the law, that you can get it, and I cannot, of course, recommend that you do that. I'd never recommend you break any laws. That would be deeply immoral and sacrilegious of me to do that with you, wouldn't it? And I certainly would never confess to you that I was doing that myself or something like it, because that would put me in danger from law enforcement, wouldn't it? So that's how you can get away and get around it now. Chances are your best bet is just to go spend the money, buy a month's rent in an RV park, and get your voter registration and get a real ID. Why fight this thing? It's coming. It's just coming, and why keep fighting it? So that's my recommendation to you. Now there is an option. South Dakota is, as far as I know, are issuing real ID compliant, I can't absolutely tell you this, driver's licenses, and they will let you spend one night in an RV park or a motel and then take that in. One night. One night's a whole lot cheaper than a month, and that will get you your driver's license. You have to sign an affidavit saying that you intend to become a resident of South Dakota, and that your absence while you're traveling in your RV is just temporary. You have to swear an affidavit, take an oath that this is true under penalty of law. And if you're lying, and if they could ever prove you're lying, and I don't know how they could ever do that, you might just change your mind. But if they can prove that, then you've broken the law and committed a crime, and I don't know what the penalty is. There must be some kind of penalty. But you can't do it. And if you choose South Dakota as a state, then a lot of this problem is just solved. You go up there, you spend one night in an RV park, you take it in, you sign the affidavit, and you're done. That makes South Dakota a big plus. A reason you may consider South Dakota is just because of that. So there we have it. There are the basic realities of our modern world. Because of terrorism, because they're cracking down on fraudulent driver's licenses, we've got tangled up in that net with them. They are an underground of doing things that are illegal, and in a sense, you and I are an underground, that same underground of not complying with the norm. We don't live in homes, we don't have a utility bill, and so to them, we just get scooped up in this broad net with the homeless and with the terrorists. If you're a nomad, you're no better than the homeless person or a terrorist, and so we follow under their same restrictions to try to eliminate us. And so we just have to fight back in any way we can. That's really the bottom line. And they pass the laws, and we skirt around them to the best of our ability, trying to be as legal and as moral as we can in every instance. And that's how you can do it. So there you have it. How does a nomad get a residence address? If you want a real ID compliant, you jump through the hoops. Whatever the hoops are, you find out and you jump. They say jump, all you have to know is how high. And in this case, it's $229 a month and getting a voter registration. In South Dakota, it's one night in an RV park, maybe $20, $30. That's a whole lot cheaper and a reason to consider South Dakota. If you're not concerned about real ID compliant, like my friend, you can just pick an address, drive around town, pick an address, and that becomes yours. You can choose a new house, like my friend. Now, let me say this one thing. If you're still in your house and you're thinking about becoming a nomad, and you don't have a real ID compliant address, go down right now and get it, because it's easy. If you live in a house, you have a utility receipt. If you don't, you have a rent receipt, you have a lease agreement. All you have to do is take in proof. You take in these proofs and you're done. So if you are in a home today and you're seeing becoming a nomad really shortly, take the steps right now, go down and get a real ID compliant, and then you've got the problem solved, as far as I know, forever, but we'll just have to wait and see about that. I don't know. you don't have to wait till your driver's license is due. I believe in all the states this is true. If you need to get on an airplane, you need a real ID compliance. So they are allowing you to renew early and upgrade early now, as far as I know, in all the states. So if you're still a nomad in a house, go out down right now. If you don't have a passport and you still live in a house, it'll be a lot easier now than once you get on the road. So start right now and through the process of getting a passport. I really strongly recommend that. If you don't, you say, oh, I'm not going to because I don't have a copy of my an official copy of my birth certificate and I don't have my Social Security card. Right now, start writing down the letters and get those things coming. This world we live in requires this. It's not going to get better. We can all complain about it. It's not going to get any better. Always, 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 every nomad should have his birth certificate with him, his Social Security card with him, and a passport. And if you don't, you need to get them. That's just the world we live in, and fighting against it's not going to get you anywhere. And I would suggest then go ahead and get a real ID compliant driver's license. Why fight it? Just go along with the program. Okay, so that's it. I think that's all you need to know. Our next, we'll talk about how to get Obamacare. That's basically all I know. I have Obamacare. I'll tell you about Obamacare and how you can get it as a nomad, getting a home base as a nomad, choosing the right state to get expanded Medicaid. And so we'll talk about that next. And then we'll have one of our regular interview videos, and then very next we'll have a regular interview video. I don't want to ever get too far away from those, and then we'll have the Obamacare, and then who knows what we'll do next. I think coming up is a series on baby steps on how you could be preparing right now. After that, I think you're going to really enjoy that, even if you're already a nomad. I think you're going to, there'll be things in there I think you'll enjoy. Okay, so that's it. I'm done. I'll sign off here. And remember, if you enjoy these videos, if you're learning, to share them with your friends and share them on your social media. To subscribe to our channel, and you'll get notices of all of our new videos, and like us on YouTube. So until then, go out and live the life beyond your wildest dreams. Don't live a barely acceptable life. Don't survive through life. You want a life that is beyond your wildest dreams. And if you don't have that, why not? It's available to you. Go out and get it. So we'll talk to you next time.